In this video, I'll show you 3 reasons why your renders look like this and not like this, and I'll show you how to change it. The first reason your renders might look fake is the material. Real materials usually have more details, roughness, imperfections, and better texture quality. So instead of only using the default material, try using high-quality 4K materials from websites. The second reason your renders might look fake is the lighting. Even if your model and materials are good, bad lighting can make everything look flat and unrealistic. To make sure you have good lighting, you can change from dynamic sky to HDRI when you are adding a new image. So from here you can see dynamic sky, then you can select HDRI, and you can go to library if you don't have anything, and you can choose from either the skies, environments, and others. And there are 2 types, the sky dome and the backdrop. I highly recommend not using clear skies or anything that gives hard shadows. It has a sharp and game-like shadow. But if you use a lighting that is soft, such as the cloudy, low sun for the sky dome, then it can give a soft shadow so the shadows look more realistic. The third reason is simply settings for the environment, camera, render, and image. The first setting that I'm going to mention that most people don't even use in the environment settings is fog. Enabling a small amount of fog can soften the background, create an atmosphere, and make the image feel more natural. The second setting that most people don't use is in the camera lens. So the first one is the focal length. The focal length should be around 35 because it looks more natural and less stretched. Then we go on details, and there are more settings to change. So the first one we have here is venting. Keep it around 10% as it slightly darkens the edges of the render without making it too obvious. And we have sharpness, which should be around 10% as well. This helps the image to look clean, but not over-sharpened. We keep the chromatic aberration off. Then we have parallelism, and you should keep that at 0.01. It helps the architecture shots because it keeps the vertical lines straight. Now for the render settings, use Path Tracer because it gives a more realistic render. And then you can choose a sample per pixel, so this depends on your PC, but normally I personally use 2048 or 1496. Anything higher than that will have a minimal improvement. And you can see the list here for the sample per pixels you can use, and then we have the max bounces. I usually use 10 or 12. Then we are finally at the image. So this is the format. We can change from Full HD to 4K or even 8K. But if you don't want to use 8K, as it will take years for it to render, then you can use 6K, which is almost just as good. It is 6144 by 3160. So now for the export settings, also one more thing, I added lighting fixtures, if you can see them here. So we just click on here, click the images that you want to export, and then click details, and then refinement, just make sure it's high. One more tip for more realistic renders, instead of flying around and making an image, make sure you click aim key on your keyboard, so this goes into the walking mode instead of the flying mode. So now if you are interested, I'll show you the settings for everything that I used for this render. So the first setting is the environment. So we've chosen HDRI, backdrop, and then approaching storm. And then if I click R, which is for path tracing, you can see the intensity change to 10. I've chosen 10 to simply ensure that there is enough lighting going through the windows. Coming through the windows, I should say. We have fog at 0.2%, I believe, but it shows 1% because that's the minimum it shows. The height is around 91.5. So now for the camera settings, we have not touched the exposure, but for the lens, we have chosen focal length to be used at 35mm. We have venting at 10%, sharpness at 10%, no chromatic aberration, but we have parallelism. So now we are at the render settings. I used 1496 for the sample per pixel, and then the max bounces at 16. Then we have lastly the image. For that specific render, I did actually use 8K. It took me about 5 hours for it to render. So long story short, the settings that I used made this render to go from low quality into a really high quality render. And if you found this helpful, then make sure to subscribe and leave a like. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.